All right. So, greetings, scholars. Let's see. Uh, let me do my announcements with. Let me see. We're on chapter 12 for statistics, and let me do my announcements with this. Today, we're going to focus on section 12.3. So now, let's see. I I mean, for the past hour, I've been like feverishly trying to load you guys' grades. Calculating the grades wasn't too bad. I was able to pull you all's data from my open math and load it, crunch the numbers, get a result. For the past like almost 40 minutes, maybe an hour, I have been trying to like get these grades to load, and like every time I load it, I get some error. I'm like, yo, why would this not load? So at the very last second, I mean, just constantly back and forth. Finally, I did something like brute force method. I was like, okay, let me just do it from scratch, scrap everything, pull just a blank thing, load it, and then try that, and it worked. I was like, praise the Lord, right? So I say that to say, the current grades are available. This includes everything leading up to chapter 12. So that means exams 1 and 2. Now, as I was kind of reviewing, the assignments that were due and things of that nature, I think I still need to make an exam 3 available. Exam 3 would cover chapters 8 on personal finance, chapter 11, and chapter 12. We haven't finished chapter 12. Originally, what I was considering doing for today was just going through problem sets and like using today as unofficial office hours. But then when I saw, okay, the sections that we have remaining that we need to do, I was like, we kind of need to keep moving forward. At a minimum, we need to do at least one section today, and then we might be able to review some. But if we were like, if we had a little bit of extra time, I'd like to just like work problem sets. Because as I was kind of scanning grades, I saw a lot of people missing just a lot of assignments. Now, but that you do have to get over that initial shock, right? So it is a good idea to go onto Populi right now and confirm your grades for accuracy. So check it, look at the score, and see your scores on the separate grades and make sure that they reflect what you've been doing, right? On my end, all I'm doing, I'm just recording what you all are doing. That's it. I don't do anything else. I just like, okay, they did this one. Okay, that's right. They get the points. That's wrong. This is the most points that I can get for that, right? So on my end, all I'm doing is recording what you all are doing, as far as my open math is concerned. But on your end, so you have that initial shock of whatever the grade is again, but this is a snapshot of this moment in time. This is not your final grade, right? What you have to do, you have to kind of like shake off the cobwebs, shake off the jitters. You have to make a plan, all right? I'm totally fine with anything that's on my open math that you have access to. Collaborate. Either you guys work together, connect with the tutors, and I'm even open to working on some of this stuff together with you all, even though my energy, I have only but so much energy. But you know, like especially if you can get into my like connect with me in my office hours or either after class. Even after class, I have a lot of time, right? So when we get out of class, if you want to hang around and like if you're working on an exam or questions on an exam or whatever, and you're just stuck and you can't figure it out, we can work on those questions together, and you can get your credit. So a lot of the assignments on my open math are just sitting waiting for you all to submit them. I know for the assignments from chapters 1 through 3, I removed the late penalty. And then for the later assignments, I think there's at most a 10% late penalty. I might even, let me just leave it at that. It won't be more than 10% late penalty. But you get unlimited attempts on, it should be unlimited attempts on all assignments, right? So, are these guys not in here? Let me let them in. And I still need to update my attendance. Okay. Yeah, so if you're just joining us, the main thing is I just loaded you guys' current grades, right? And this includes everything leading up to chapter 12, but none of chapter 12's homework has been due. On my end, I do need to make an exam 3 available. It looks like I need to create a final exam as well. Final exam, you can anticipate it to be cumulative. More than likely, I'll give you like at least 5 days to work on the final, unlimited attempts. Similar to the exams 1 and 2, and I also need to post exam 3. Exam 3 will cover chapters 8 on personal finance, chapter 11, and chapter 12. So once we finish chapter 12, that should become available. And I'm really open to making this stuff available early because I want you all to have as much time as possible to work on this stuff. I just want to encourage people that are like on the lower end of the score spectrum. Okay, so let me say this. Once you decide that you want to try to boost your score and you want to try to finish this, if you're going back to work on old assignments, you got to be a little bit savvy, right? The grading rationale, the way I broke it down, most of your points come from the exams, right? So far, we've only had 2 exams. Those 2 exams right now counted for like 65% of your overall grade, right? By the end of the semester, that's the gist of it. All of your exams, including the final, count for about 65% of your grade. Now, I think on the syllabus, I think I broke it down to where the average of your exams 1, 2, and 3 count for like 45%. I mean, sorry, 40%. And then the final counts as like 25%. All right. But obviously, we haven't taken the final. So, you know, that's why the exam averages have a little bit heavier weight. But that's approximately how it's going to be towards the end. All right. So I say that to say, if one, first you have to decide if you're going to go the distance. I don't know if it's too late or not for the ad drop or not. I haven't looked into those dates. But once you decide to finish the course, let me let the student in. Cancel. Once you decide, let me turn on my captions to make sure that my audio is being pushed. Captions, testing, because it's totally late. Oh no. Oh, okay. Whew. I was nervous. I can see my captions. Okay. So, okay. So again, I don't know if we're past the ad drop or not, but once you decide to finish the course, it's totally possible, right? You just gotta kind of, shake off the jitters, right? It's totally possible for anybody to get through this with decent marks, right? So once you decide to finish the course, then my recommendation is prioritize your exams first. Even if you don't do all those quizzes and homeworks and all that kind of stuff, if you at a minimum maximize the scores in your exams, that'll be you can recover the maximum amount of points, right? So boosting the scores on all of your exams, that's where you're going to get the most bang for your bucks, right? And then let me see. The next order of priority, once my if I were the student, once my exams were in order, so this one. Once my exams were where I wanted them to be, the next order of priority is going to be your quizzes. That's where you're going to get the second most bang for your buck. That's where you're going to do the least amount of work and get the most amount of points. The homework is going to be the last thing that you want to prioritize. Once your exams are wherever you want them to be and your quizzes are wherever you want them to be, then if you just feel up to it or you just want to practice and this, that, and the other, then I would do the homework. The homework is going to be a whole bunch of work for minimal points, right? The homework is really there as practice, and I take an actual score, but it's there to get you ready for the exams, right? And the meat and potatoes really comes down to the exams. Again, you know, if you're working on an assignment, I'm open to staying after class. That's what my office hours are for as well. If you're working on anything that's on my open math, including exams, we can work on it together. I'm totally fine with that. I just need the items to be submitted. Do the best you can, learn as much as you can, but I'm fine. I'm totally open to like you guys collaborating and getting those assignments submitted. I just need you to submit them on my open math, right? As usual, if you have questions, my voice just cracked like I'm going through puberty. I don't know if you heard it or not. As usual, if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself so we can talk about it. Give me just a moment. Give me a moment. It's daytime. Cool, that'll work. Share. Come on. Get send it there. All these group texts are starting to pop off. Oh no, where is she? Copy. Let's go here. Okay. So again, if you're just joining us, I've updated the grades. So one thing I've kind of noticed is being like a remote instructor. When I first started teaching remote, and like I would do these like grade updates towards the end of the semester, and I would see like blanks across the students' score charts or whatever. And I used to be like, oh man, what are you guys doing? But then inevitably, semester after semester, since I've been doing this, students find some way to pull through, right? I've had some students wait till like literally the last 2 weeks of class, and they submit everything. I was like, okay. And so on my end, they go from zero to hero. That's happened, I don't know how many times, right? So I've had to learn to be like, okay, give the students the benefit of the doubt. If they plan to finish, then, hopefully they're making a plan to submit their assignments with satisfactory marks. Again, I'm totally fine if you take any content that's on My Open Math, you connect with a tutor or a classmate or somebody, and you get those items submitted, right? I'm totally fine with that. Even I will work on some of the stuff with you, right? So if you're working and you just want an expert input, we can stay at the class or we can connect in my office hours. Because again, I don't really expect you guys to be, you know, like super, like you're not a mathematician. I just want to, really the intent is I'm just trying to expose the idea or the concepts to you for you to get some practice, and then I have to measure on some way, right? So I have to do some type of measurement, right? Let's go people, right? Glad you all are finding your way in. Okay, so hopefully you heard something that can encourage you that you can take and use. But again, I still periodically I still get people asking, well, can I still submit this and get credit? I'm like, yeah, I say this like every class. I don't understand how that's still a question. but again, it's okay. Like, I just want to be clear that you can still submit anything. You just need to get it submitted, right? We're rapidly approaching the end. This is gonna be over in a blink of an eye. We just started. This is November 2nd, right? Um, so before you know it, we're going to be going into the Thanksgiving break. Once we get back for Thanksgiving, everything is going to be done, right? On my end, again, I do intend to make an exam 3 and a final. I think I need to post those items. The exam 3 is going to cover chapter 8 on personal finance, chapter 11 and chapter 12, and it'll be similar to exams 1 and 2, and then the final, right? Final is cumulative from the beginning to the end, just a little bit of everything. I haven't made it, so I do need to. I was looking. It looks like I need to make a final, so I have a plan. Anyway. Okay, and then as usual, if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself to get my attention. Um, but each one teach one. You're not your brother's keeper, but just try to encourage each other, work together, collaborate. Make a plan and take some action and just get it done, right? So because you don't want to waste your time and money and then to have to come back and redo all of this, or then sometimes it just gets it gets real dicey when you don't pass the stuff. Okay. But I try to create a way out for anybody that genuinely wants a way out. I try to create a way for people to get out through unlimited attempts, minimal late penalty. It's not a proctored environment. I just need you to kind of work on it and submit it. Okay. So hopefully, again, you got something out of that. So today, let's at a minimum, I want to work on section 12.3. Actually, this is a really short section, so more than likely, I'm going to go ahead and do the next section as well. And so we're continuing discussion. What am I making up words? Discussions on statistics, and 12.3 is on measures of dispersion. A few objectives here. 1, determine the range for a data set, and 2, determine the standard deviation for a data set. Okay. So the range, used to describe the spread of data items in a data set. 2 of the most common measures of dispersion are range and standard deviation. Range is the difference between the highest and the lowest data values in a data set. I think last time we did the mid-range, which was I guess it was the halfway mark between the range, right? Yeah, mid-range. But again, the range is going to be the highest data value minus the lowest data value. So Honolulu's hottest day is 89 degrees, and its coldest day, man. So now I'm just getting images of the Maui. I had this urge to say the Maui massacres. I know they said it was a wildfire, but when you study that thing, that did not seem natural at all, and it gets really kooky. The suggested or proposed proposal as to what really happened. But when I saw Honolulu, my heart just instantly went out to these people and children. It's just it's so disgusting. Anywho, Honolulu's hottest day is 89 degrees and its coldest day is 61. The range of the temperature is going to be 28 degrees, right? 89 minus 61. Okay, that's fine. Computing the range. The figure shows the age of 4 oldest U.S. presidents at the start of their first term. Find the age range for the 4 oldest presidents. So the range is just going to be the highest minus the low. The high looks like a 70, the low like a 65. Wow. So the range here would be 5 years. All right. Pretty straightforward. Let's see. Okay, find the deviations from the average for the 5 data items. Yeah, you definitely don't want to miss the opening announcements. Like, that's a lot to miss. Find the deviations from, okay, standard deviation. Find the deviations from the average, right? So we would find the average of each of those. I think we need to make a table. I mean, I guess I can write it out. Okay. So let's do our x. I think. And actually, let's go ahead and find the average, right? I'm going to call it x bar. That's for the average, right? So then if we said 70 plus 69 plus 68 plus 65 divided by what, 4? Hey, Google, what's the average of 70 with 69 with 68 with 65?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Let's try this instead. Almost. Come on, this one. Okay, that looks good. And I think you know what? Actually, instead of this, a spreadsheet actually would be better. Let me see if I can mimic what I did last time. No, nope. Back up. Don't want to share students' information. Let's just do a blank. I'm so glad I got that thing working. I was on this thing like having such a hard time trying to get those grades posted, but we finally got it working. Okay. I know that's kind of hard to see. Okay. So, but all I'm going to do is collect this data, and I'm just going to do a spreadsheet, right? I know it's hard to see. I hadn't figured out how I want to set this up just yet. We can zoom in for now, I guess. This is fine. So first, let me start with let's just call it the age, right? And so let's get a copy of the data. We have 70, 69, 68, and 65, right? So then, let me see here, I'll put the average. Okay, oh no, you're losing power too. And this is going to be equal to the average of these cells. Okay, so it'll calculate it for us. That's how easy it is to do a spreadsheet. So the average is 68. So we'll go with that for now. Right here. You need to charge. So this equals 68. Okay, so that's the average. So then if we want the deviations from the average for each of the 5. So then here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make another column, and I'm going to call it deviation. Okay. And so I think we say x minus x bar. So this is going to be equal to this cell minus the average. Now, let me show you something, right? So now, obviously, if we say 70 minus 68, that's going to be 2, right? Now, if we say 69 minus 68, that result should be 1, but the way I have it put in, notice we don't get a 1, right? We're getting the wrong result, right? So that's happening because in this formula, see how that brown bar is moving down? I need that brown bar to lock into place on that average, right? So we do that by, there's a way to lock the cells right here. If I click, and then I can say preserve the row, right? For the start and the end. So basically with that cell, so now it's going to lock in on that cell, and then I'm going to copy that formula. So now when I let me hit enter, right? So again, I want to copy this formula, and now when I copy to the other cells, that brown, that second cell doesn't move and it behaves properly, right? Okay, let me plug this guy in because he's totally losing power. Oh, come on. All right. If you're joining us late, current grades are available. I'll just leave it at that. It's a good idea to go and listen to the announcements. So if you came in late, if you didn't hear the announcements this morning, it's a good idea to try to track down the recordings. Now, the recordings are going to be available in 2 locations. You can always check the chat inside of Teams, and it's available for 24 hours. It's available 24/7 for like a certain amount of days, right? On my end, I try to pull them from Teams and load them into my YouTube channel before they expire, right? So it's either going to be on my YouTube channel or on Teams in the chat. But you can access, as soon as we finish class, you can pull the recordings. But you definitely want to listen to the announcements. Again, current grades are available, and it's definitely a good idea to listen to those. Okay. So now we've calculated the deviations for each, right? So I guess we can just use this table. Right, we have our age, then we have the deviation. So we have 2, 1, 0, and -3. Okay, I guess I'll write it here. So we'll let X be our age. Deviation is usually sigma, but I'll just abbreviate it as, we'll say the next column is X minus X bar, right? So the ages were 70, 69, 68, and 65. And then, so 79, X minus X bar was what? 2, 1, 0, and then -3, right? So that's our table for right now. That's the deviation. This is called deviation. Okay. All right. 2, 1, 0, -3. 2, 1, 0, -3. X minus X bar. Okay, that's fine. So then the standard deviation. So now with the standard deviation, this is the process. The simplest way I know to calculate standard deviation is by making a spreadsheet or a chart, right? That's why I started, instead of using my calculator, that's why I use, I'm using numbers on an iPad. It's the iOS numbers. If you were working on a Windows device, you can use Excel and do something similar. You're gonna have to do a little bit of research to like how to do these formulas and things. But the same things I'm doing in numbers, you can do it in Excel. So in order to find a standard deviation for a data set, first we find the average, like we did in that previous example, and then find a deviation of each item, which is basically X minus X bar. And then we take those results and we square, right? So in our chart, we would do another column where we square these results. And then we take the sum of the squares, right? This symbol just means add up. It's called summation, right? So we just add up our results, the sum of the squares. And then divide the sum of the squares by n minus 1, right? So we say the sum of the squares divided by n minus 1. Then that answer, we take the square root. So it's all a formula. The easiest way to do this, in my opinion, is a chart or a table. So let me see what's happening. Let's see what happens in the next slide. Find the standard deviation of the ages of the 4 presidents. Okay. So if we continue our chart, right, we have our ages, we have our deviation, X minus X bar. So then in the next column, we're going to say X minus X bar squared, right? So here, I need you to work. We're going to take you. So we want to say X minus X bar squared. So we can say the deviation squared. I don't know how to do a overline. We'll just say the deviation squared. Squared. That's fine. We'll go with that. Deviation squared. So then basically what we're doing is this is going to be this cell, the previous cell, squared. Okay. So that should be a 4. Let's see. Okay. Formula syntax error. Let me see, to the power of 2. Is that not going to work? Okay, there we go. Yeah. So then it should be a 4 and then a 1, 0, and then positive 9, right? So we said the previous cell squared, x minus x bar squared, and then the sum of the squares. So now if we want the sum of the squares, we can put that here, right? We'll put a part over here that just says the total, right? And this is just going to be equal to the sum of these guys. Okay. So we've added them up. And then now that we have the sum of the squares, we can just go ahead and do the final calculation for the standard deviation. So I'll put the standard deviation, I'll put it here, standard deviation. Okay, and the standard deviation is going to be what? This, we take the sum of the squares, so we're going to take this cell, let me think about it. I think we need to take the square root of that result. So I'm going to, for square root, I'm going to say to the power of 1/2. So we're going to say to the power of 1/2. So that'll give us our square root. No, wait a minute. I'm missing something. Let me hop back over here. Okay, we need to divide by n minus 1, right? Before we take the square root. So we take the sum of the squares, then we say divided by, we need to count. It's basically 4 entries. It's really 4. I'm just trying to make a formula. Let me see something. Count. Let me see. I'm going to count these cells. I think that's right. Let me see something first before I submit this. Let me see if I do count. Oh, but equals. I just want to make sure my formula is working. Count. I just want to. It should be 4. I just want to make sure that this is 4. Okay, it is 4. So that count is working. Okay. All right. Let me see. So we're taking the sum of the squares. Oh, and we got to say divided by n minus 1. So we got to say, let's do parentheses. We're definitely going to need parentheses there. Minus 1. Okay. So we said the sum of the squares divided by n minus 1. And then we want to take that result and we want to take the square root. So for square root, I'm going to say to the power of 1/2. Okay. Okay. Let's see if they let us round or whatever. Okay, we're getting, yeah, we took the sum of the squares divided by n minus 1, then we took the square root. Okay. So let's see if we can like round it. So we took the item, right? We took our deviations. Okay, so they did the total for all the columns, but that's fine. The sum of the squares, now 14, did we get 14? Yeah, we got our 14, okay. Then we divide the sum of the squares by n minus 1 and then take the square root. And then, so they did two decimal places and we got it correct. I'm just going to go ahead and say round. I'm going to incorporate into my formula a part that says round this result to 2 decimal places. 2.16. Nice, right? So what standard deviation, what it tells us is like, okay, the higher a standard deviation is, once we get to the end of that formula, right, and we get that result, the higher a standard deviation, the more spread out our data is, right? So the standard deviation gives us a sense of how spread out our data is. That's what it tells us. And then, yeah, right? Yeah, that's a brief summary. Actually, I still need this. It's just tough. My keyboard is like losing power. I keep trying to charge it, but then every time I step away, I need to type again. Okay. So that actually brought us to the end of this section. Give me a moment to go ahead and load the next section. Actually, let me share. I'll share this later. I'll do all that later.